like to welcome you again to another Mastering Construction podcast. Today we're going to be dealing with temporary water for your construction site. Quite often in construction you use a fire hydrant for temporary construction water. We want to go through the steps of getting that fire hydrant okayed to tap water off of, and also getting a temporary meter, because they're going to want to bill you for the water that you do use, so you'll have to apply for that meter. So the first step is getting that meter. It takes sometimes weeks, maybe a month or more to get the meter. So you want to make sure that you apply for that meter early on. The entities and the authorities that would have jurisdiction over that would be your city inspectors, your city divisions, public works, as well as the fire department. Fire department, very cautious about anyone using these hydrants, and you've got to get permission. So plan well ahead before construction starts to be able to go into these different authorities, apply for the meter, pay the fees, and make sure you have it ready. Some cities will give you the meter and you're responsible for putting it on. Other jurisdictions will put the meter on themselves, and then you're responsible for the connection afterwards. You want to make sure that you think carefully about the location. Is it a safe location? How much traffic is there? So like in this instance, we didn't have a lot of choice. We basically had one of two fire hydrants, and we decided this one was probably our best because of its location to our construction site. We do have a lot of traffic here, but we've been pretty cautious about not blocking traffic. We use this hydrant also for my street sweeper, so he can get water to sweep the streets and get rid of the dust that accumulates on the intersections or our exit there. So the street sweeper in general will back up to this, use some flashers, maybe have a flagman out back, and he'll carefully fill up his truck. It's worked pretty well, just being cautious for the most part about the traffic, and being considerate too, so we don't block it during heavy traffic routes. So location, you want to make sure you have a good location. And one thing is, many jurisdictions nowadays want you to put your own backflow device on this. You can take a look at our meter there. That's our main meter. And the valve here is the end of the city's meter. Our system picks up right there with the plastic pipe. So many times what they'll want is for you to put on a backflow device. And what that does is, in the event of the water pressure failing inside of the city system, say for instance this hydrant lost pressure, water pressure, by having a backflow device after it, it prevents from water from your job getting sucked back into the public system. So it has a shutoff, basically, an automatic shutoff that will not allow the water to go back in. This protects the water from becoming contaminated. So ask that question early on. Do I supply the backflow device? And what are the criteria for that? Because each city, each jurisdiction will have certain backflow devices and the way they like them set up. So get that earlier on and hire someone, or you can purchase a backflow device from some company. So after that is deciding, okay, if I've got my hydrant, I've got my meter, I've got my backflow device, how am I going to get the water from here to inside my job, the other side of the fence? As you can see in our situation, we've got a large sidewalk, we've got a lot of foot traffic, so we didn't want to just lay a hose across the sidewalk because it created trip hazard. We could have done a pipe or a hose and then bridged over it. The problem with that is, as you can imagine, with all the people walking around here, creating a little bump in the sidewalk could have been a trip hazard, and ADA probably would not have liked that. So we petitioned the Public Works in the city and see if we could saw cut this concrete sidewalk. We buried our pipe and then put in some temporary asphalt on top of it. So it's a fairly smooth transition. Very little chance of that getting broken or damaged over time. And then just the other side of the fence, I've got a riser with the adapters and everything else so I can pull water off of that. So I've eliminated my trip hazard. Now with our situation, we're going to be removing and replacing all of his sidewalks. So they weren't objecting to the fact of making a saw cut in the sidewalk. If I weren't going to plan on replacing this whole thing, what they would require is, if I did saw cut this, is I would have to pay to get these panels replaced and make them look in brand new condition. So that's something to factor in to how you're getting the water on site. Being prepared also for a minor disaster is crucial. For instance, perhaps this line breaks and I've got water just coming out by the hundreds of gallons. How do I shut it off? Well, as you notice here, I've got a valve before, or just after it would be my meter, so I could shut it off there. I also have a hydrant wrench key that fits these shut-off valves. So having that hydrant wrench key handy, I carry it in the trailer, in the truck, but some people like to chain the hydrant key up to this device, perhaps with like a combination lock, so you could tell your helpers or any of the subcontractors, here's the combination. If we have a leak, go over and turn it off. If you notice as well, talking about locking things up, make sure, you can see the cable there wrapped around the meter, make sure you lock up well your meter and your backflow device, because those will walk off. People will steal those, recycle them. They'll do anything with them, but other contractors may take them and use them for their own benefit. Make sure you lock everything up. Now, heaven forbid this hydrant actually gets hit. We want to be prepared for turning off the water. So if you find your hydrant and you look straight out in the street, you'll see usually a small cover. This one says LA Water. So it can be round, it can be triangular. There are different shapes for different cities and jurisdictions. But make sure that ahead of time, before you need to, pry that lid up. You know, when the traffic's slow or you got some time, pry that lid up, make sure it comes up easily. Look inside. There's going to be a square or a hexagon, some kind of bolt at the bottom, and it's going to be fairly deep, that will turn off the valve leading to your hydrant. So make sure you have the proper tools as well. Tools to pop that lid, but also there's a large T-bar that extends down into the ground, making sure you have that. And in case you need it, you have all the tools needed to turn off that water supply, because if you wait till it happens, you're going to be in a mess, because a lot of water is going to flow out of here and make a mess of your site, make a mess of the street while you're trying to figure out how to turn it off. So having that ahead of time, many times what we'll do is, if you've got a small plan or a site plan, part of something you'd put up on the wall, is show this hydrant location, show the meter on it, and then show approximately how far off the valve is in the street, and then post that in your trailer or give it to your foreman, so that if something did happen, they would know where to go to, and then also post on that where the tools are on site. That just helps to alleviate the panic when something does happen. Now, many residential sites won't use a hydrant for the most part. Sometimes they will stub in from the street the domestic water. And so what you can do at that point is have your contractor, your plumber, or your underground contractor, basically put a pipe riser up just inside your property line with a couple valves on it, so that you can thread in a hose or pipe or whatever you need. But again, make sure you have a series of one or two at least valves, so that if one piece of that pipe gets broken, you can turn it off there or another place. And again, make sure in the street you know how to turn it off in the case of a major emergency. So those are just a few overviews of temporary water for your construction site. Number one, making sure you're prepared is key. Have the tools at hand before you need them. Also, order your meter long time in advance, before your construction starts. I would say at a minimum 2-3 months, going into those jurisdictions and asking them what is required, how long it'll take to get it, and making sure if you need a backflow device or not, and what kind. So if we do that, we're all prepared for construction. We can use this water for cleanup, dust control, and we can do it in a safe manner. Also street sweeping, that's very important. So I'm going to clean this dust up here and get back to work. Thanks for tuning in to Mastering Construction. This is Chad Ryan, and hope you enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you soon.